Thank you for joining Don't Get This Twisted. I am the professor with my always co-host, Tina. How you doing today, Tina?
Hey, Professor. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful, as always. I thought I would pull up a little topic off our sheet of notes because this is one a friend of mine gave me. We're probably going to piss some people off because, you know, we haven't done that yet, or at least I don't know. No one's told me that we've made them mad, but sooner or later, something's going to come across our desk where we're going to talk about something that's going to be controversial. And hey, why not tonight or today or whenever you're listening to this? We're going to talk about transgender people in sports. Basically, biological males transitioning into females and getting into women's sports. I think it's a hot button topic. There's been lots of things in the news about it, with biological men going and dominating girl sports, whether it be track, weightlifting. There were some people in the Olympics, and or MMA fighting. That's kind of where we'll start, because I think that's the bigger one, where you're talking about a physical action that can be detrimental to women. Here we go. I think in your case, since this is more was thrown towards me because I'm into MMA fighting, and I think that it's a slippery slope of letting a biological male beat the living hell out of a woman.
Right.
It's a slippery slope. And again, in today's day and age, you say anything about the word transgender and people lose their shit.
Well, I notice people are losing their shit anyway. Like, they're just losing their shit because they're losing their shit. There's like, you're offended because I don't know, the wind blew up your skirt wrong, or you're offended because somebody put too many drops of cream in your coffee. I'm so tired of the whole offended thing and the whole, like, pissing people off. Let's talk about this. Let's go.
You need to leave. You need to leave my skirt out of this.
Right.
So look, and again, wherever you decide to be on the transgender issue, that is up to you. I'm not trying to argue for or against that. I'm arguing for what a biological male who is transitioning into a female and being in a physical sport with a woman. Look, men, and again, not a shot at women. Thankfully, you're on the show, because this is where we bounce things off of each other from a male perspective and a female perspective. And it's great, because so far the people who listen to us like that, because we're giving both sides of the story. Men are just physically different. We have, more bone density, generally carry more muscle, have bigger hands, have a bigger jawline. We're just physically bigger, because as DNA, we were designed to do something different. We were hunters and protectors. And again, not a shot at women. You guys were birthers. And I'm talking way back. So when you get a man who is now a woman, you're putting a biological male in a ring with a woman. There's a fighter that, let's see, Alana McLaughlin. She just had a fight and ended up choking this woman out. He, when he was a special forces person in the military, and then transitioned out. Yeah. Like, and if you saw her, I mean, looks like a man, and not a shot, but it looks like a man. I mean, that's just the reality. Full on covered tattoos, jawline of a man, short pink hair.
Yes.
And again, not to be a dick, but
no, but honestly, when I saw the video that you had sent, he looks like a man with pink hair. He doesn't look like a woman. He doesn't even look like a man, or that a woman that used to look like a man with pink hair. Like, he literally looks like a man with pink hair.
He doesn't even look like an athletic woman. So like, let's look at a biological woman MMA fighter who's obviously carrying more muscle, is athletic looking. He doesn't, or she doesn't look like that. She looks like a man.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to be the dick when it comes to that. I'm more worried about the female that are in the ring with these transgender people that are literally getting their ass kicked. There was another fighter who ended up retiring. She had fought, I think, 6 fights. The first 2 never even said that she used to be a man.
That's wrong.
Totally wrong. I forgot her name. Something Fox was her name. She literally broke the orbital bone of this woman.
Oh,
yeah. Like, we're getting past just, hey, let's see someone for their gender. We're putting biological females in harm's way.
Yeah,
that's where I see it as being wrong.
There's definitely something wrong with that. If you're genetically a woman, you have the ability to have children, to bear children. And if you're not built that way, you should not be in female sports of any kind.
Correct. And again, we're on the wrong side of history from what people are going to tell us. But I think it's, look, if you're going to have male sports and female sports, you should have transgender sports. We're in a different time period. That's one way to fix it. Well, it's the only way to fix it. Because if I had daughters that were in high school and a biological boy transitioned and now is going to run track, who's been running track with males for 4 years, and now he's a senior or she's a senior and is now dominating my daughter on the track, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's not fair. We're talking about something you're taking away from women's sports. And the whole reason to have women's sports is that generally they couldn't compete on the male level because we're different.
Yes.
The tennis player, what's her name? The sisters, the Williams sisters.
Right.
They are, at one point were number 1 and number 2 in the world.
Yes.
And I'm not exaggerating. They could not beat the number 25 man.
Really?
Yeah. Because we swing harder. They couldn't take the serve. The number 25, we're not even talking about people in the top 10. They couldn't beat the number 25 man in the world because we're physically bigger. We serve harder. We're just built differently. Mm-hmm. So I'm also trying to look at this from the feminism point. Like, shouldn't these people that are super feminists, shouldn't they be up in arms right now? Why aren't they? Why aren't people complaining?
I really don't know. I think because right now they're thinking that this is okay, like try to be fair to the people that are transgender, but in reality, they're not being fair to anybody.
Well, you can't,
not set up to be fair.
You can't be, and again, I'm going to say things that I'm sure will piss people off. You can't be a liberal or progressive and be for the women's movement and be okay with this, because you're literally going against exactly what you're fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like saying if women don't make the same amount of money. So if I transition, am I going to make less money? That's a good question. but the person who's hiring me knows that I used to be a male. So am I going to be able to go in and fight for my better wages? Everything is turning into this very big slippery slope.
I've never even thought about that, to be honest.
I'm more worried about the preservation of both sports. Women's athletics is going to take a beating to the point of, do you even put your children in girls' sports? And at some point you have to decide that. I mean, obviously as a young child, they mix and match. Like my son had girls on his t-ball team. Mm-hmm. But once you get to a certain stage, you know, either the girls progress to softball, get away from sports because they become more girly,
right?
Or the ones that hang around until they can't hit a curveball. Because that's what happens. And that's what happens with boys. Trust me, boys do the same thing. They'll play until they can't hit a curveball and they stop playing baseball because it's hard to hit a curveball. But we're talking about like, where do we preserve it? So yes, they go to play softball. So what happens when men who transition to females, do they play softball or are they still allowed to play baseball?
I kind of feel like whatever parts you are born with is what side of the fence you should be on. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense. I'm all for everybody being equal, trust me, but really, come on. This isn't equal. This has nothing to do with that. It's ridiculous to think that men, the people that were born men, could physically, that it's like, I want to say fair, but like that it's, I mean, really, why are we even talking about this? Like, I'm having a hard time right now.
Well, because I think, look, the word bigot is thrown around like Nazi now. If you don't believe in the progressive liberal movement, you're a Nazi. It's like, well,
whatever. I just think differently than you, and I'm not going to own that crap. Here's the deal. If you feel like you want, maybe it's not an all or nothing thing. I'm going to say something right now that's not going to fly. But, you know, if you want to play sports on that level and you want to be that person, like maybe not transition, you know, there's always that too. I mean, we could go 100 different ways with this, but honestly, it seems like we're putting women in a really bad place where they could get really hurt, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, I get like the fighting and everything, people get hurt, but there's laws against men hitting women.
Yes.
You know,
you get arrested for that shit.
Yeah. So why is this okay? Why is this even an issue? When are people going to say, you know what, enough is enough? Like, I get you want to be who you are. I'm totally cool with that, but I'm not putting you in the ring with a woman because guess what? You're not a woman. You're not a woman that's capable of fighting at that level. You're in a different level.
It's like this too. Michael, what's his name? Bisping. He's a former UFC champion. He said, I'm going to read a quote that I got off of a webpage that I thought was pretty spot on. He said that he wasn't surprised that she won the fight. He goes, I'm not here to talk about transgender rights. There's no judgment there. He goes, whatever. But I do believe if you're a woman that is trapped in a man's body, there are certain things that you should have to give up.
Yeah.
And look, he's not trying to take away their rights as a human. He's just trying to tell you that you can't go and dominate something because of your feelings. We're talking about facts, factual things of being stronger. And yes, when it comes to fighting, the video I sent you, he said it best. He said, look, there are women UFC fighters that would whoop my ass. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a fighter. I'm not on that technical level.
Right.
But if you got the same girl weight class and the same man weight class of the UFC, he would probably kill her.
Wow.
Because we're just dominantly bigger. Like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is a heavyweight, I want to say, let's say you got a heavyweight girl, and I think the biggest heavyweight girl is probably 185, 190, probably at best. I'm guessing. And again, could be less. Brock Lesnar, when he was in the UFC at his best, he was 265 pounds.
Wow.
So you're talking about a guy who almost outweighs them by 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? 75
pounds.
Yeah, 75 pounds. Who's, I mean, a beast. Mm-hmm. Beast. That man, I would not want to get hit by. No woman would want to get hit by him.
Right? I was going to say, doesn't sound like a woman would either.
No, I mean, no one would. And I think that when you start talking this talking point, people want to say, oh, you're transphobic. No, I'm not. You're talking about 1% of this country. When do we decide that what's safe for women?
Yeah, just be real about it. I mean, let's just have a real conversation. Let's take feelings and emotion and being offended out of the conversation and look at what's best for the common good and go with that. Because at some point we need to quit accommodating a very small portion of the population at our detriment. Mm-hmm. Like if it's something that's a detriment to the majority, we need to rethink that. No offense. But we just need to rethink that, because when we are making laws and when we are making rules, it's for the majority, not the minority.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And again, you don't take the minorities out of it. You build laws within that, but you have to understand societally what that means. And again, like to shit on this transgender fighter, she couldn't make it as a man. I'm sure she would have got killed at that level.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never know. That
says a lot.
But hey, look, you don't transgender or you don't transition in, if you're not a fighter, like she was never a male fighter. Mm-hmm. She had already transitioned and then became a fighter. So we'll never know. But she's having issues with or so-called issues with female fighters. Who knows where she's at really on the level of being a fighter? I don't know. She's like 30 years old, I think. So obviously, I don't remember, but she was a biological male for 30 years.
Yeah.
So there's so
what is the issue here? I mean, it should be so cut and dry. Like what is really going on, people?
Well, I think society is going on. Like I said, bigot. If people want to say, trans hate, being a bigot. That's not, I don't care. Live your life. But when it comes to female sports or females in general, you can't have the women's movement and have this at the same time. It's time to separate something. Mm-hmm. The problem will end up being that there's not enough transgender fighters.
Right.
Not my fault. It's unfortunate.
It goes back to maybe if you want to transition, there's things that you're not going to be able to have anymore. I mean, that's kind of how life is, though. And it's not just being transgender, it's being anybody. Like you have what you have because you've sacrificed something else. That's just the way life is. It doesn't have to be, it's not a woe is me thing. It's just a life thing. It's like pick your poison. What do you want? Like, and go with that. Not because you can't. Yeah. Honestly, everybody says, oh, you could have it all. Really? You could have it all. Really? Come on now. You're never going to have it all. There's no freaking way. So you need to see what's going to make you the happiest and roll with that, but it doesn't have to be at everybody else's, to their detriment. Yes. It doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and again, where do we draw the line? We're going to have to start being a little more strict.
I think man, woman would be a good way to draw the line. Man, woman. That's it.
I agree. Well, and here's the thing too, that here's the flip side to this argument as well. You don't see biological females transitioning into male sports and dominating. Why?
No, because they're built differently. They're genetically different. They're not set up for that.
Yes, they're biological females.
Yes.
And that's why there's female sports.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that is a level playing field, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want LeBron James transitioning and then going to the WNBA and scoring 85 points every game. Right? I mean,
yeah, that's silly. But yeah.
because then nobody else there would want to play.
Right.
Right. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And it's not, we're talking about a sport that's physical. This isn't like a man transitioning to a female who is a billiards player.
Right.
Okay. Where, I mean, that's a skill game. Either or, you're still going to be a good pool player. You're going to know where to hit the ball and, how to position to the pockets. When you're talking about getting smashed in the face,
totally different situation.
Like I said before, I don't want to get into the ring with a female professional fighter. Mm-hmm. There's a reason, because that girl is used to getting hit and knows technique and knows how to take me to the ground, and knows how to tap me out. I don't want to do that. It's because I know I would probably get beat. We have to get to a point where we decide what is fair and what is not. And again, you might catch a lot of shit for saying man and women, because you can't say that anymore. There's 185 genders.
No, I can. Man, woman. Were you born with a penis? Were you born with a vagina? Like it's very easy to make that, to decipher that, because that's literally genetically what makes us different.
Well, of course, because if you're born with a penis, you are making testosterone. And if you're not, you're making estrogen.
Right.
Which,
so what's the question?
Well, and then here's the other question. Let's say you get to a point where testosterone levels, because that's how I think they do it when a transgender fighter is fighting a biological woman. Mm-hmm. You have to have the same level of testosterone as a woman, because you do make testosterone.
Right.
In very small levels. So, it's whatever the level is in micros or whatever the hell it is. So do you let the female fighters do steroids and just be like, okay, we're on the same playing field? You can't.
I don't know why any woman would want to put more hormones in their system, because
athletes are insane. We can get on if you want to get into athletes, look at men who do steroids who just want to be bigger.
Well, that's okay. That I get, but I'm talking about, the hormones and everything. Why would anybody want to put themselves through that? Because we already know what it's like once a month. We already know how bad it gets. And that's just our normal body. Now put extra into that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me either.
Well,
I stay away from that.
And one that does other things to you.
Right.
Without getting too graphic, there's things that will get bigger on you because of that.
Right.
Your part of your anatomy will start looking like the male anatomy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That took me a quick second. Oh.
Yeah. Cause I'm trying to be somewhat family friendly. You're put any kind of drug you put in your body is an issue, and no different. The male fighter who starts putting female hormones into them because they're transitioning. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be doing either. First of all, I think you have to be careful about chemically changing the form of who we are.
Yes, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I'm trying to get over in this whole conversation is that where do we save women's sports from men? Because that's what we're doing. Biological men, whether they transition into a woman or think that they're a woman trapped in a man's body, you're still genetically male. And I think that's a problem. I mean, like I said, I went over the other girl who literally broke someone's orbital bone by just pounding the living shit out of her. Mm. That's still a man beating a woman, and hate all you want. That's how do we fix it from going forward without hurting everyone's feelings? That's the bigger problem, because I think you're just going to hurt everyone's feelings, or you're just going to have to tell people, look, don't say shit about the feminist movement ever again, because you're allowing that to happen.
How about just be freaking rational, and men and women are different. They can't play these types of games together, period. Just like, why can't we just say, no, like, don't be stupid. Really? Like, when did common sense, well, it's not common and it's been out the window for a while, but what the hell? When is that going to make a comeback? Everything's come back around, from bell bottoms to and halter tops, tie dyes. When is common sense coming back, people?
When we decide that there's not 486 genders.
Is that really how many there are now?
I don't know. That was me kind of exaggerating, but I'm sure there's 100. That's what I've heard. I mean, there's 2.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, but that would be, again, people are going to call me a horrible person because of it, but men and women, there was a comedy special that Dave Chappelle put out not too long ago. And he kind of said that, he goes, gender's a fact, because every single person on this planet came out between the legs of a woman.
That's true.
Period. I mean, whether you like it or you don't, a woman gave birth to you. So there are women and there are men. Mm-hmm. And those are the two, whether people argue sex over gender until we're blue.
It's not the same thing.
Look, no, but I mean, your biological sex and your biological gender to me are the same. They walk hand in hand. It's however you want to say it. I mean, men are men or women are women. I mean, how you feel inside is your own craziness. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you think I'm a batshit crazy if I said I was a helicopter tomorrow?
I'd just blow it off.
But you turn around to somebody and go, he actually thinks he's a helicopter. There's a problem. And again, I'm not trying to make light of people who have gender dysphoria, because that's how was looked at for years and years and years and years and years.
Right.
And again, I feel for people. I'm not trying to take that part away. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to this part of that transition, we have to be careful with what we're doing as a society, because the women's movement and true feminists should be losing their shit right now. And at every march saying, give my daughter back her rights to be an athlete.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But you're shunned now. You're canceled. People will dox you and tell you where you work if you don't believe the same thing. It's the individual freedoms that we had before of having an opinion like this show is thrown out the window. And I'm sure I'm going to get text messages or calls from people that are like, I can't believe you think that way. It's like,
oh my gosh, if you get them, just forward them to me. I'll handle it, because honestly, this is ridiculous.
That's very feminist of you.
If you're going to get offended, I'll deal with you.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, like, again, I understand, but you have to understand that everyone's not going to think the same way as you. We're just not.
Yeah.
I read a great meme today. I'm trying to find it on my telephone because I think it's an interesting statement. And supposedly David Chappelle said it, but don't quote me for sure. It's a meme.
Yeah, it's a meme.
But it does say something that's quite interesting. It says, our culture has accepted two huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second is that to love someone means you agree with everything they believe, say, or do. Both are nonsense. You don't have to compromise convictions to be compassionate.
Amen.
I think that should say it all. Like,
yeah.
I don't agree with everything that you believe, teeners. I just don't. And
I'm okay with that.
Yes, because we're rational. I'm sure. And again, we've thrown things against the wall so far on this show that we just happen to agree. Sooner or later, there's going to be a conversation where we don't agree.
I'm okay with that.
Or we're going to have somebody on the show that really doesn't agree with us.
Here's the deal. If you're truly my friend, it doesn't matter how much we agree or disagree about. The fact that we could get together and be okay and have our different opinions, I think is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
And what we need.
Yes.
Because if you don't bounce opinions off each other, you're never going to at least be open to change.
You don't grow, you don't change, you don't evolve. Yeah. Who wants that?
And again, I can say something to you and you are always going to go, nope, I think different than you. And I'm okay with that. And we should be. That this is the bigger conversation of how do we get to a place where I'm okay with this and I'm okay with this and you're okay and I'm okay with not agreeing, where we can go, how do we save the future of the sports without compromising the future of people being human? And like you said, I think that there is something of saying, look, you're going to have to give up something to have a better life. Yeah. And if it's not competing in that sport and only competing with transgender people, we should find a way to do that, to make sure that our daughters are taken care of, because it's the people are getting sued over it now.
Yeah. Fight for what you want, go for what you want. But, at some point you have to look at life. You're not going to get everything that you want. That's crazy talking if you think that you can. And if you figured out how, send me your the way you did it. I want to know the ins and outs, because life is making sacrifice. Life is not getting everything that you want. But if it's something that you really want, it's worth it. So you have to figure out what's worth it and go for it, because we can't keep making everything uncomfortable for everyone to accommodate choices that people have made for themselves. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I'm against their decisions. Doesn't mean I wouldn't hold their hand through it. But at the end of the day, let's be realistic. Women and men should not be physically fighting against one another. That's crazy pants.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that women are not hurt over the decision of not hurting someone's feelings.
Again, feelings get hurt. Get over it. Cry it out, pat yourself on the back and move the fuck on. Can we get over this whole feeling things like it's the death of somebody? Are ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, and again, like I said, I agree with you on that. I think we should. I don't want either side getting physically hurt. Like, I don't want a transgender person getting hurt because someone's crazy, but I also don't want my daughter or whoever's daughter to suffer the consequences of having a biological male now play sports with them. It's just not fair. I know there's a case somewhere back east where two girls are suing the school district because for letting a biological male, be a part of track. And this kid is now like when I mean breaking girls' records by a lot. Like there'll never be a girl that will get close to the record.
But again, it's not a girl's record.
But it is if you go by how society sees it. As soon as that biological male transitions is now a female, that record is now new because we're letting them think that they're female.
You know, when you asked me to do this show, I didn't think that I would even have an opinion or not care very much, but it's kind of making me mad. It's so frustrating
because we all have opinions. Again, that's why that when I came to you with this show, I said, this should be a show about our opinion. We're going to piss people off. That's just part of society and being, in a regular society. I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. That's far from it. No. I'm just trying to show that there's another side, which is, again, as we go forward, we're going to have people on this show that don't agree with us and show that there are two sides to every story. In this case, I threw this one out at you because you didn't have a point of view. You were like, whatever. And this is me just telling you one instance, this one fighter or these two fighters. To me, it's more of a physical thing. You're just putting, where do we draw the line? Where does it end? How many people need to get hurt or how many records need to be broken to where we go, these are biological boys taking away from biological females. Mm-hmm. And we're getting close. We're getting really close. There's I guess 4 transgender athletes that went to the Olympics this year. One was a weightlifter. Funny that she ended up not really lifting that well. And it to me, it came off more of a work. Like she made sure she didn't because she was under the gun. Like she was under a microscope of, she was going to go there and dominate these girls because she's a man biologically lifting weights. I think we're at a place where we just have to try to understand all the sides and save the sports or save the people. It's a slippery slope, and I'm doing my best to kind of look at all of it. I just think that you're barking up a tree that's going to get, for one, women's athletics will go away. At some point, they won't even have them because why? They won't need them. Or they're going to mix all of the sports together. So there'll be track. Who do you think's going to fall off on that when you start making it just track? There's no men's and no women's. Who's going to dominate?
The men, of course.
So women just won't get scholarships, which is wrong. The whole point of scholarships is to get smart athletes a free education when they can't do it. So you're going to have people who aren't going to even get close to being on a college team because they can't get there because biological males have taken all their spots. Mm-hmm. It's a slippery slope. And again, I know that we're away from that part of the situation of having kids that are in sports. So I don't have to worry about that. But I know people who have young children, young girls that at what point, where do you say enough's enough without being the bigot asshole? Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to quit caring about whether we get labeled the bigot asshole and just start being honest.
That's probably what's going to have to happen. But I don't want other people's lives to suffer as well, but someone's life is always going to suffer. Mm-hmm. As long as it's not harmful. I'm not trying to take away anyone's dignity. I'm just trying to make sure that the true biological gender has a shot at still having the same playing field. Because if you don't, the girls of this country will never have a level playing field. They'll always be playing from behind with biological men who are dominating their sport, while biological women who transition into men don't do anything.
You know what, though, that's kind of the way of the world. If you look, women always seem to get they're always going to be the underdogs.
The short stick. I get it. And I'm trying to fix that. Like, I don't want anyone to not have a fair shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes with biological males in biological male sports. I don't think it's fair that, that's why they test for steroids. They test for steroids because the people who are true athletes shouldn't have to worry about people who are enhanced that will beat their record, because it's not fair. The playing field isn't level. You either tell everyone, we don't give a shit, take all the drugs you want.
Right.
This sport, you want to take steroids, take all you want. Then it's a level playing field. If you want to take steroids, take them. When it comes to female sports, you should have to be biologically female. When it comes to male sports, you should have to be biologically male. And if you want to be a trans athlete, we should have a trans division to make sure that everything is the same level playing field. Because
makes sense.
And I hate to make it that simple, because I'm sure that people are going to tell me that it's not that simple. But on paper, it seems pretty straightforward. Just make it fair for everyone. Because I don't want to see a biological female go into male sports and get killed. And I don't think there's any MMA fighters that are transitioning from female to male and trying to get into the MMA, because they'll probably get killed unless they're on a level like Ronda Rousey level when they transition. You'd already have to be a great fighter and transition to be a male and fight males, because you may have a shot, but when it comes to weight class and you start getting into just being a fighter, having the skill set. That's where it becomes a thing, but just make it fair. I think I'm just trying to make it fair for people. Like, make sure women aren't getting blasted in the face by a man, because you don't want it in the home. Why would you want it in a ring?
That's right.
It should be the same. And I think that moving forward, I'm sure this is going to come up again once somebody shits on this show and says something bad, and then we're going to have to do a rebuttal show. Which I'm sure will probably happen at some point. But I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to take people's rights away from them as humans. I just want a fair shot for each gender and the two genders that there are, male and female. That's why there's men's sports and women's sports. Let's keep them both alive. If you want to transition, more power to you, but make sure that there's a level playing field within that as well. Yep. So let's just do it that way. Unfortunately, we have to do the plugs for the show. We have social media. You can find us on Facebook. That's where you can write and complain. As well as Instagram and Twitter.
I'll be handling all that.
Yes. We want to hear your complaints, because that's better than not hearing at all. You can find us on all the platforms like Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify. When you go there, make sure that you're hitting the old subscribe button, so when we come out every Wednesday, there's a new show. We're doing great. We have lots of good listeners. We want to keep you involved in this show. Please keep giving us a call if you know us personally. Give us topics to talk about. You're going to hear more crazy shit like you did today. And share, please. Share. Tell everybody. Say hey,
share and follow.
You want to hear these crazy people? They talk crazy stuff. Please listen to the show. No, not really, but it's coming. It's coming. This was only a controversial show number 1. There's a lot that I haven't even told you about that people have already sent in, and I'm kid gloves. I'm trying to be nice without,
Oh, stop that. Like just give me the list and let's go for it. If people get offended, they get offended.
Well,
I'm so okay with that.
I'm so okay with that.
I'm so okay. Because my friends will call and tell me, I'll be like, listen, come on now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's unfortunate, and hopefully I don't lose any friends over it, but real friends would never be mad. They'll just talk to me about it. Well, on that, Miss Tina, I am the professor. This has been another fun show of, craziness. But like every opinion, please don't get this twisted. We're just trying to have some conversation. Please feel free if you want to be a guest on the show as well. All you have to do is zoom into us and, hey, we'll argue with you the whole night.
Yay.
All right. We'll see you next week for another great show of Don't Get This Twisted. I'm the professor for Tina. We'll see you in a week.